Hello and welcome to my latest video. On this video we're going to be talking about keyboard shortcuts for Sketchup. And we are going to talk about the stock keyboard shortcuts that come with built into Sketchup. And we're also going to talk about my own personal shortcuts that I've added to SketchUp to increase my efficiency when I'm building these models. I like to build them fast, and I like to build them with precision, but the keyboard shortcuts basically help with your efficiency, not so much the precision. However, my range of shortcuts that I'll go over are just suggestions. You don't have to do that. More than likely, as you get comfortable with SketchUp, you'll want to create your own keyboard shortcuts for whatever you use that's most handy. But I do a lot of solar design, as you can see from this existing model, and so these keyboard shortcuts are extremely helpful to me. Another thing I want to point out is I have added this another viewer for my keyboard keystrokes, and as well as my mouse movements. And no, I don't want to change the scheme. Okay, so you can see my mouse clicks if I'm holding the middle mouse button to hold, click and hold the middle mouse button. I get this orbit function right here, which is also a keyboard shortcut because this orbit tool, if you just select it, you're stuck in this tool, and if I just click with the left click with the mouse, it's doing the same thing as if I was holding the rectangle and I was just holding the middle mouse. So the middle mouse button does do orbit. But let's go ahead and talk about the stock keyboard shortcuts that come in with SketchUp to begin with. So first of all, I'm going to be working off of this large tool set right here. So I'm just going to pull this into the center, and we'll be working off of this to demonstrate what everything does. So the arrow key, again, all the tools are here because a few of these I haven't assigned keyboard shortcuts just because I don't use them so often, and I probably will end up doing it at one point. But there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts already built into SketchUp, and you'll find that if you try and add one, there's a lot. Everything's pretty much already taken up. But we'll go through here anyway. So the first thing is the arrow key, the select tool, and the select tool. The keyboard shortcut for that is the space bar. So you hit space, you've got another tool. So I have the paint bucket in hand. If I hit space, now I have the select tool. And the way the select tool works, we'll just give you a quick demonstration. Let's say I want to, if you single click something, I just selected a face. This is not selecting the edges. If I single click the edges, see I'm just selecting an edge. So let's say if I was to select this edge and delete it, there's no longer a bounding edge here, so you can kind of see the inside of my paper house here. But we'll go ahead and Control Z to undo, and you can see the same way if I just click a face and hit delete, it'll delete the face. So that's a single click. Now if I double click this face right here, it's going to select everything that this face is bound by, all the edges that it's bound by. Double click, I got all the edges. So that's really helpful as well. And then the third third thing you can do with the select tool is once is single select, two is select the face and all the bounding edges, and if you click 3 times, 1, 2, 3, you probably can't see that I just clicked it 3 times, but you click it 3 times and now I'm selecting everything that the edges and the faces are touching to. Now you can see, I don't know if you probably can't tell if you're new to SketchUp, but this is a group right here I have of some solar modules, and that is separate from everything else that I've built. So once you triple click on something, you're selecting everything that's ungrouped, that's touching together. And in this case, this whole house is ungrouped. So that's why it's all selected and this is not. A couple other things before I move on. If you hold Control, so if I'm holding Control with the Select tool, you see the little plus sign that's now by my cursor on my arrow. That means whatever I select now will be grouping. Not grouping. Excuse me. I'll also be adding selections to the selection I've made. So I can add things. I can add this roof, this ground here, and this roof over here. This face actually is just a face. So I can just add. I can double click, triple click, and so I can make a bunch of selections. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can hold Shift for the Select key. Hold Shift for the Select key and you single click. You're going to take that portion of your selection out of the group selection. If I double click, the same thing applies in the reverse. I've now removed this face and all the bounding edges from my total selection. And if I triple click, well, in this case it actually did it. Okay, so if I 2, 3, now I've deselected it. So Shift will deselect and Control will also select. The Shift key also actually goes both ways. See how it has a plus minus? So Shift is kind of universal. I could just keep clicking while holding the Shift and it's going to add it and then subtract it from the selection. So I hope that's not too confusing. Play around with it. You'll see what I mean. It's a super powerful tool in SketchUp. You got to know how to single click, double click, and triple click, what the difference is between them, and then know how to add selections together. Super helpful. It'll turn you into a super user in no time once you get comfortable with it. A couple other things. This tool on the large tool set is the Make Component. Now, I actually take my own keyboard shortcut and reassign. This is by default G, the letter G. It's by default the letter G to make a component. And I've reassigned that to make it a group, and I'll get into that later. So we'll just move on from here. But to make a component, we'll just do it real quick. I'll triple select this house. I'll make the component, which you can manually select up here, and we can name it. And we can name that house. And the reason why I have changed it to group, first of all, G is probably better suited for the group anyway, because it starts with G. And the reason why is because I don't really like naming every little thing, and oftentimes I need to work with groups more often than I need to work with components. So I prefer just hitting G and getting the group. And that's my own personal shortcut. So, moving on. The paint bucket. Paint bucket's simple. The shortcut is B for bucket, and I'll just show you what happens when you select B. When your window dialog boxes over here on the right, when they're not expanded and you press B, it automatically expands the paint bucket selection, all the colors and all of your textures that are in this pull-down menu. And I could paint this white surface green, which is supposed to represent, this space is supposed to represent grass, but instead of adding just a plain old color, let's just add a texture. And there's plenty of things. Roofing, I use roofing commonly, brick and cladding, metal, stone, and wood are pretty much the ones that I primarily use for modeling the exterior of houses. But we'll go ahead and select vegetation, and we'll just put some grass out here. And that's a driveway, so it's not grass. So that's the paint bucket tool. It's the letter B, and then you automatically have it. And then so now we'll go to, the next tool is the eraser, and the keyboard shortcut for eraser by default is the letter E for eraser. You see most of these are pretty intuitive. Paint bucket is B for bucket, eraser is E. The eraser is simple. You just click and hold, and you can erase things like you're erasing on a piece of paper, or you can single click. You can single click something and it'll just delete. And that was a group, so it deleted the whole thing. So you can single click on things. I should point out that it won't erase a single click on, it won't erase any faces, it'll only erase edges. So you can kind of erase edges here of my paper house. Okay, so we'll just back up here, click the model back, and moving on. The rectangle tool. Obviously that is R for rectangle. And if you click once, you can do anything you want with this, so you can build a rectangle in any direction. And the second click will solidify that selection. And you can see up in the dialog measurements box here that I've just created a rectangle about 35 feet, roughly by 31 feet. And as long as I don't click anything or change my tool, if I want to change that, I can change that by just retyping in a number. So I'll make a 20-foot square. So 20 foot, comma. So I'm saying 20 foot in one direction, 20 foot in the other direction, enter. And now I've got a 20-foot square. Okay, so I'll just leave that there. Next tool is the line tool. And it is the icon of a pencil, so don't get it confused that it's P. P is for push-pull. The line tool is L. L for line. And we can draw lines in any direction that we want. And you can see SketchUp is really fun in that it will automatically keep you square in either the green direction, the red direction, or the blue direction, which is the up direction. And just so we know, now I'll kind of go over, if you can lock the direction. So if I just kind of move around, it doesn't really know where I want to go, so it's just letting me do whatever. But if I want to lock it, let's say in the red direction, the arrow keys on your keyboard, so left, right, up, and down. Each of those will lock it into a position so that no matter where you move your mouse, it's going to be only moving in that direction. So just to demonstrate, I want to move in the green direction. So that would be the left button. You hold left, and now as you can see, no matter where I move this, I'm stuck in that vertice. And this is really handy once you start building models. You'll see the power of being able to lock it, especially when you start moving things around with the move tool. So I can lock it in the right vertice or in the up and down vertice. Okay, so that's a line tool. And circle. Circle is C. Pretty easy. If you watched my SketchUp tutorial, I showed you how to change the number of sides. If it wasn't clear enough, just go ahead and leave a comment that you'd like me to go over it again. But you can create, all circles come by default with SketchUp with 24 edges. And if I go ahead and click on one of this circle, and right click it and say divide it, and I want to divide it into, if you look up here in the segments box, I want to divide it into 24, just to show you. Now what I've done is I've broken up, all I did was just broke up how SketchUp brings in a circle. And SketchUp sees circles as truly not a circle, but as 24 sides. And I've broken it up where I can now just delete a portion of that circle. Okay, so that's the circle tool, and this keyboard shortcut is C. The arc tool. The arc tool is by default the keyboard shortcut A, but let's see what happens. When I hit A, I get the Protractor tool. Why do I get the Protractor tool? Well, because I don't really use the arch tool a whole lot, and the rotate tool, which we're moving towards, is Q. And Q and A are right below each other on the keyboard, so that's kind of why I've made the Protractor A. I don't use the arch a whole lot, so I took that keyboard shortcut. But just to cover what it does, you click in one point, click on another point, and then you can move the arc in a direction. You can also use a line, an edge, as a path for the arch. So I could click there and then click over here in this corner of this house, and I could use this edge on this building here to say, hey, I want this to arch straight up and down, kind of create this funny looking arc here. So that's the arc tool. Very handy. We'll get into some videos where we do some cool stuff with it. Polygon tool, I almost never use this. I really ever use this, but it's kind of like the rectangle tool, because this. So when you select there is no. I don't believe there's a stock shortcut for the Polygon tool, but if there was, I don't use it, and you probably won't either. But when you first select it, you get a number of sides that so you can change this. You can change the Polygon tool. You just select it and say, hey, I want 4 sides. Now you get a square. You get the same thing as the rectangle tool, except this does perfect shape. So this will do only a square, and we could make it 3 sides. So it's shown as a triangle. Excuse me. Select the tool, and then before you click anything, 3, enter, and you've delineated what you want that to be. It's in the shape of the triangle. That's the Polygon tool. Freehand, also no keyboard shortcut for it. I never use this tool. Well, I don't. I use all the tools, but seldom use most of them. So this is the freehand tool, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You can just go ahead and draw it up with the freehand tool. Okay, so the move tool. Move tool is M by default, and with the move tool, you can go ahead and move geometry. The way I like to do it is I like to move selected geometry. So if I select that line, I can move this line. Now you see how it's sticking to the other line. That can help you and that can hinder you in some situations. So if you, for instance, let's say we wanted to move this, if I double click this square and I say, hey, I want to move this square, and it's connected to that line, it's going to drag it along, and that can be really terrible for things like, if you accidentally move this, you can see everything gets really, really weird. So this is why I've created the group function. So if I want to quickly group this, I don't have to right click and say, hey, make this a group. That's wasting time. I hit G, and now it's grouped, and now because it's grouped, it's no longer sticking to all that other geometry, so I can move this thing wherever I want. So really helpful. The move tool is super powerful tool. It's kind of like the select tool, because if you hit control, now we can move, we can do something different. Almost all these tools, if you hit control, they do something different. So play around with it and see what they do. But this, if you hit control, you're moving a copy of it. If you just moving it regularly, it's not a copy, you're just moving it to wherever. Okay? And escape will, if you ever are into a tool and you're like, hey, how do I get rid of this? I can't get rid of it. Hit the escape key. That'll get you out of it. Okay? And the next tool is the push-pull tool. This is kind of how SketchUp really upped the bar with 3D modeling with this push-pull tool. And this simply just works with the faces. So we can just push-pull, so I can click once to select that face, then click again to drag it up. You see as I'm doing this, it's just continuing to drag this shape. Well, if I hit Control, it's going to actually create another face that it's been pushed into. So you can see I'm kind of creating these partitions in this triangle column here that I've made. So that's a push-pull tool. Next is the rotate tool, and I just select this, and I hit the rotate. Now the rotate is by default, and we just go back here. Space is a selection tool. I'm going to select this, and then Q. Q does rotation. Tab Q, and you can click on a point, and then say, hey, I want to rotate this edge, and rotate that up. And this works in degrees. So you can see in the measurements box, it's 30 degrees. Move that square 90 degrees. And because I've moved it with the geometry it's sticking to, it's kind of done this weird thing where it's rotated it and brought all the geometry along with it. But if I go over here to my square, it's probably a bad example because I want to rotate, well, I'll move it 45. So I'm going to rotate this square 45 degrees. So I'm going to just kind of start it moving and then say, hey, 45 degrees. and we've moved it that amount. So that's the rotate tool. Follow me. The follow me tool is one that I've created my own shortcut for, and my shortcut for follow me is Shift F. Will do your follow me, and what the follow me tool does, just make a circle here. So you had a pipe run, you're doing some solar thermal, and you wanted to make this pipe do some crazy bends. So you select the path. Once you have the path selected with the select tool, then you click on the follow me. And once you click on the follow me, I'm not going to click it because it's a keyboard shortcut video, so I'm going to Shift F. And now you see, it's deselected our path. Well, whatever I click, whatever face I click now is going to follow this path. So I'm going to click this circle, and boom, I have this kind of pipe that I've created. That is the follow me tool. Shift the scale tool. Scale tool's shortcut is S. And if I want to scale down this monstrosity of a column right here, I'm just going to first select it. And then I'm going to hit S for scale. And I've got some other stuff in there, and that's no big deal. And we can kind of scale this different ways depending on the handles that I grab. If you hold Control in this, it will kind of do this, it'll scale it down to a point. Not quite to 0, but it'll scale it down to a good point. And a good example would be this right here. And we'll just scale this top down. Because this is not a group, it'll affect everything that's connected to it. I've just kind of created a cone with the scale tool from that side. Okay, so that's the scale tool. The next one we will talk about is the offset tool. Offset tool by default is the letter F. Letter F is the offset tool, and that basically just creates an offset. So if I make a rectangle here, and I want an even 8, 12, 6, 24 inches in from this line or out from that line, I grab the offset tool, or, F for offset, it's keyboard shortcuts. And now you can see in my measurements box, I can create an even offset, 8 inches in either direction. And this works with whatever shape you have. It can be curved, whatever it is, it's going to follow the path, closed path of this shape. And you can also just select like 2 lines if you want to, or 3 lines. If I want to select just make an offset of just these 3 lines, I can do that with the offset tool by making the selection and then telling it what to do. The next tool is the tape measure tool, and yep, you guessed it, it's the letter T for tape. And this is a great tool for site design and just checking measurements or entering measurements in and making guidelines. Click once on a point, on a face, and drag out, and once it snaps to a point, we get a 27-foot, 7/8 edge there. That's what the tape measure tool does. It also pulls guidelines. You can see it's, once it has that little plus sign, it's going to do something different. So let's make the plus sign, and if you click on an edge and drag it out in a direction, you can make guidelines, which are very, very helpful. We'll go over some things that you can do with guidelines in other videos. But, okay. So we'll create some guidelines. The dimensions tool, handy tool. Not that it's not. You can. It's pretty self-explanatory. Click on an intersecting point or on an edge. Click anywhere really. Any 2 points will give you the distance between. And that's what the measurements tool is. The protractor. This is kind of like the tape measure tool in that it can set guidelines. It doesn't rotate anything, but what it does do is create guidelines for you. So the keyboard shortcut for the protractor is one that I've made personally, and you'll have to make it yourself, is keyboard shortcut A for protractor. If I click on any point, pull it out in a direction of reference, and then I want to reference it off of the horizon, which is a level vertically extending into infinity in the red direction. So I'm inferencing it from this plane, and then I'm moving it up, 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 180, 270, 360 will be back to 0, but we could just make a 45-degree guideline, and now we have this 45-degree line here that we could follow along with the pencil and do great things with. So that is the Protractor trick. The ASES tool does not have a keyboard shortcut, although I've thought about making it because I do use it frequently. You can reset. So when Google when you open up, you geolocate. Let's say we geolocated this area here. Basically we don't have a choice. It comes in already basically facing, green would be facing true north, and red would be facing east and west, and blue is up into the atmosphere. So you can change that. You can change, if you wanted to model a house that was 45 degrees, you could click on the corner of the house and then drag this out. You could change the directions that now we're locking. You can see now we're locking in a different direction than we were over here initially. We're locking. So that's how you change that. This is for 3D text. I won't go into that. And then these last three that I'm going to cover, orbit is the same thing. I'm not going to tell you the orbit shortcut is O because I don't want you to use it. Orbit keyboard shortcut is O, but I don't want you to use it. And here's why. Because you have it already with your external mouse. It is the center scroll wheel, and you just hold the middle mouse button. You hold that scroll wheel down. You have complete control. And if you let go, you can just kind of click and let go, and dragging. You can move this thing around. So you don't need the keyboard shortcut. You do need the mouse shortcut for that one. The hand tool. Everything I just said about the orbit, clicking and holding is the orbit. Well, while you're holding it, now hold Shift. Now we have the hand. You can see down at the bottom it's showing Shift plus middle mouse button hold, and now we have the hand. If I let go of the hand, it's turned into the orbit. I press Shift again, and it's got the hand. So again, I don't want to tell you that the hand shortcut is the letter H because I don't want you to use it, but get to know having Shift and the middle mouse button be a way to move away or move into your model. It's a very good tool to have. And then the magnifying glass, the zoom tool, I don't want to tell you it's the letter Z, because why? Because again, the middle mouse button, that's where it's at. That scroll wheel, you scroll it in and out, there's your zoom. Doesn't really go as fast as the zoom tool. If I click on Z, and then I click and hold and press up and down, you can see it zooms in pretty quick. Real quick, actually. So maybe you like the zoom tool for that, but I prefer the scroll wheel. The middle mouse button is pretty good stuff. So that completes the stock keyboard shortcuts. And now I'm going to show you how to create your own keyboard shortcuts. And we'll just kind of go over a few of the ones I probably already touched on. So in order to create your own keyboard shortcut, go to Tools, go to Preferences, go to Window, go to Preferences, and then you can see I'm already selected on keyboard shortcuts. So, okay, so we'll just go through which ones that I've created. I've created one for the hide function, or to hide anything, any geometry, group, object, whatever. So just to back up here, I'm going to cancel. Any of those keyboard shortcuts are just shortcuts for things that you find in the menu. So if you want to make a keyboard shortcut for hide, like I say, you're going to have to look in Edit, and then it should be under Hide. If there's something under File, you'll make it under File, and then whatever it is. So let's go back in there and kind of show you what I mean. So the first one I want to go over is the Hide. Hide is in Edit, so we're looking for Edit first. So Edit, and you can search and filter. Like we could search Hide, but that's cheating. Let's teach you the right way. So Edit, and we go to Hide, and you can see I already have it assigned, but in order to assign it, you click in the box, the Add Shortcut, then click the keyboard shortcut you want to assign. So in this case, I have to click Shift and F at the same time. Oh, excuse me, that's, follow me. Shift and W, and then click the plus sign. It's going to prompt me to create that, because I already have it assigned, and we'll say yes. Okay, and then so we've got a keyboard shortcut to hide things. Now we want to also have a keyboard shortcut to show everything. So unhide all. Unhide all, and we'll go Control W, and we'll add that one. And I'm just going to go right down the list. File, Geolocate. We're going to add a location by Control Shift G. Very handy when you're doing solar design. The first thing you do is you're going to plug in the address of where you're working in. I don't like going to File and Geolocation, then Add Location every single time. So I created a keyboard shortcut for that. And we're going to go ahead and add that. The next one is File, Export. Back up here. And we're going to export 2D graphic by Control Shift I. Kind of a stretch for one hand, but I can do it, and so can you. So that is just for exporting 2D graphics when you're done with your model and you want a visual representation, maybe to add to email, whatever your purpose is. This is a great keyboard shortcut, so you don't have to go through the chain of command in the menus, file menus up top. And we'll go ahead and add that. And the next one is the Protractor, which I've told you, and that is under Tools, Protractor, and I've selected the letter A. The next keyboard shortcut is turning shadows on and off. Really helpful for solar designers to quickly be able to turn those on and off. And the shadow keyboard shortcut I've created is, I believe this character is called the tilde. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's called the tilde. And it's kind of just an arbitrary keyboard shortcut that wasn't being used, so that's what it is. It's the tilde, and I go ahead and add that, and I can turn those on and off. And follow me, so that would be under Tools, Follow Me, and that's Shift F. Easy to remember. Go ahead and add that one. And then the last one, which once you go to assign this one, it's going to say, hey, this is already taken, but like I said, let's see here, edit, make group is the letter G, and it's going to say, hey, this is already used by make a component, which isn't really that helpful. More times than not, you'll be making groups than components, so I would just prefer to have this, and maybe at one point I will make one for component, but for right now, not very necessary. And that completes my own keyboard shortcuts. And just to go through them really quickly, I've went through Geolocate in another video, but just to show you the hide function. So if I have this plot of land selected and I hit Shift W, I've hidden that. I can also make selections and hide things based on my selections really easily, so I can kind of show you why I've created this hide tool, so I can quickly go through this thing and hide what I don't want to see. Same as I can hit Control W and show everything I want to see. And let me show you why this is really important. This whole house is built kind of with sticky geometry. Nothing is grouped. But what if I want to group this dormer right here and copy it and make these copies of these three? It's easy to do. And if you try and just select it like this, you're going to grab some other geometry behind it and you're going to get frustrated. So this is how I do it. And it's done with the hide tool. First, I just start selecting everything that's in its way out of there. And I do this by rotating around and getting rid of everything that is kind of near it. And then now I have just this, now I can just group it because everything's hidden. I can group just that, show everything, and this should actually create a hole in this roof when I move it, which you can fill in. No, it didn't. But you can see how I can create it and then move it right out of there without, let's go back, so it's not a group anymore. And if I was to try and move this, not being a group, you can see it just doesn't work. So, okay. So hide and show, we've gone through that. The group, the G, that's really important. Follow me, we've went over that. Shadows, the shadows are on right now. Takes a couple seconds to load. But if I hit that tilde button, they turn right off. And the tilde, for some reason, doesn't work with this plugin that shows my keystrokes. So you're just going to have to bear with me. I'll try and put another plugin there that will show the tilde. But shadows on is the tilde. Shadows off is the tilde. Protractor we went over. So that is about everything except for the export image. So I'll just export this as an image. And it's just done it. And you can see, and I have just created an image from that one with the keyboard shortcut. So, a little longer than I wanted it to be, a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but thanks for watching. Hopefully you've watched this whole video and studied it and start getting better at your keyboard shortcuts. I just want to say I learned most of my keyboard shortcuts, if not all of them, from taking a class at the college, at Shoreline Community College, and anybody who's really interested in SketchUp and wants to become very good at it, you should definitely take the training over there. It's a great course. Thanks for watching. Rate, comment, and subscribe.